You always catch me. Hello. And there it goes again. Like I said, always catch me doing something I'm not supposed to be doing when we start the show. But how's it going, Mr. 411?
It's going great, Zach.
Good to
Today is not
hear.
your normal. Today's not your normal NBA day. You know what I mean?
Correct. It is the ball nights of ball nights in the NBA.
That's right. NBA Finals. So, Boston Celtics and Golden State Warriors. We're going to talk about it
Yes, we are.
as well as some other things, Zach. So, as I always ask you, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Sports Love.
And one of these days, we're going to get the rights to the Pastor Troy music. That way, you can just start playing that instead of saying, "Are you ready?" It'll just start going.
Yep. We'll get there one of these days. But welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. The Sports Brothers Show. The gentleman in the red Ralph Lauren shirt, that is Zach. He is Zach, and I'm Mr. 401. And we are the Sports Brothers, and we have some things to cover today. Uh, this is actually part one of our shows for today, NBA Finals. And by the way, today is June the 2nd, and the year is 2022. But yes, we're going to talk about the NBA Finals, Warriors Celtics. We're going to discuss Game 7 of the Miami Heat and Boston Celtics game, Zach's Miami Heat. And that was a entertaining game, to say the least. And obviously, that's why we have the Warriors and Celtics now, because the Warriors were prevailed. But we're going to talk about that game. So there's some things that we want to unpack there. And then on part two, we have a special guest in the building. He is a Los Angeles Lakers fan, a major fan, and he has a lot of information to share about the Lakers with the Sports Brothers and the audience on part two of our show. So we're gonna go ahead and jump into part one. But before we do that, Zach, you already know what time it is. But we
Yes,
need
I do.
everybody to do the following.
Yes, please do that. We would appreciate it.
Exactly. Couldn't say it any better, Zach. We definitely need you to hit that like, subscribe, and notification button. It does nothing but help the Sports Brothers out. And we need all the help we can get, and it's much appreciated. All right, Zach. No need to waste time because we got a lot to cover in the short span because we want to make sure we're able to sit back and watch the game so we can break that down later on, too. But we're going to talk about the conference finals right now, game 7. And that was the Miami Heat hosting the Boston Celtics. So let's go ahead and talk about the game 7 there, get our takes on that.
Yes, sir.
All
Uh,
right.
well, I guess we're gonna start. Probably. I didn't think it was gonna go 7 games. I believe I made that apparent from the beginning of the series. So the fact that it did go 7 games is a small victory for Miami. Uh, the game became more entertaining than it should have been. If you're going to, once again, if I'm just doing my assessment, it seems like the Celtics have a knack, uh, or becoming more of a knack to playing to their competition. Uh, I don't think they played as well as any series as they did when they played against Brooklyn. They seem to be very motivated for that one. Apparent, I guess this that is apparent as they got the sweep, and they seem to, was it game 2 of the net series where they may have had to come from behind or something of that nature. I can't quite remember. It's been a while ago. But I think outside of game 2, uh, for the most part, they seem to have a good little flow and play motivated. Since then, Milwaukee, I thought with Milwaukee not having Middleton, the series went a little bit longer than should have. And, now that we get to the conference finals, and with them having a chance to make it to the finals for the first time since was their first time since 2010. I think that's when they played the Lakers. Lost to Kobe's team. I believe
Yes,
that's
the
what it
time
was.
the year they lost. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So that's the last time they've been to the finals, 12 years. You would have thought they would have been more motivated, especially since this group has been together for a good little bit. And somehow, some way, they came out on fire. I think 32-17 at the end of the first quarter. And then they turned this back into a ball game somehow. But overall, I'd say Boston got the job done.
Hmm.
Miami will look in the mirror at themselves of some missed opportunities, and I'll let that kind of marinate and pass it over to you for a little bit and wait for you to pass it back.
Yes, sir. Yeah, Game 7. It was a interesting game. I did happen to watch it. I didn't watch it when it was live, so I'll go ahead and let everybody know that. But I did because I was participating in some of the Memorial Day activities at the time. But I did watch it afterwards, and it was and we're going to get into a little more of the game, but just a little overview for me was that Miami started off slow, if you will, on that side of the coin. They allowed Boston to get out on a get out into a take a big lead in the game. So basically, the storyline for Game 7 was that the Heat had to play from behind. So that was going to be the uphill climb against a very good Boston team. And both teams, as we know, are good defensive teams. And so you definitely don't want to put yourself in that predicament. So there was a steep hill for them to climb in that game. And as we all know, it eventually got to a point where it really came down to a shot, and we'll talk about that later. But Zach, for you, what was some of the key points in that game, just leading up to what we're going to get to later on with it?
Well, I'll say once again, I don't think it should have came down to a game seven. I thought Boston had the better team, and they would have been able to dispatch Miami sooner, if nothing else, in Game 6, when they had a chance to close out back home, that they wouldn't have allowed that to happen. But it came. Robert Williams, I believe that's a
Mm-hmm.
big guy's name out of A&M. He seems to be way too valuable to the Celtics to me. Like, he dictates a great deal of how they play and go out performing. You wouldn't think someone like him would be that important. Good for him, because when it comes to negotiation time, I guess that's going to be great. But uh, the Celtics may need to look at that and figure out why he determines so much of their success on the court. Going over to the Miami side, Jimmy Butler, uh, he was Miami's only offense. Uh, that's a shame for them. People are gonna probably look at Bam Adebayo and look at his game. He had 25 points, gave you 11 rebounds, but I can tell you from watching the game, those were Bam Adebayo has a very soft offensive game, and I would probably tell you defensively he's kind of soft too. That he doesn't necessarily it doesn't feel like he gives you a whole lot. That he's a big difference maker in the sense that Robert Williams only gave you 2 points that game, and that might not be the game of games for him. But as a whole in that series, when Robert Williams played, it seemed he had an imprint on the game, even without necessarily scoring like that, whereas Bam didn't. Uh, the fact that Miami is having to rely on Jimmy solely for points is troubling, only because Jimmy Butler isn't necessarily a scorer like that. He's more a low 20 scorer than somebody that should be out there getting you 30 plus points. Yet that's what he did. Something else that stuck out to me from the Celtics standpoint is Marcus Smart took a lot of shots, and he took a lot of 3 pointers. That I would say that if I was defending him, I'd be like, I can live with him taking that shot. That it
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't feel like Marcus Smart should be taking shots like that. And he's a fine player. It's just that the shooting part isn't really maybe where he excels at. He excels in some other things, and you might want to save those shots for, say, Tatum and Brown. I thought Brown had a really impactful game for game 4, keeping them in the game and just making sure they stuck around. And just some of the other things that I would go to the Miami side. They're probably gonna. I heard that maybe they want to keep this group together, or at least that's what Spolstra said, and some of the key pieces. I'm not so sure. I, Kyle Lowry, I wasn't high on him when they got Kyle Lowry. He didn't do anything to impress me during the season. And I think that one championship that he won in Toronto, while it was great, that makes people think higher of him than what he actually is. Like he contributed to that team, but he's still Kyle Lowry. And yeah, he had the hamstring and some other things. But overall for this season, I would say at best he was a D, if not an F, with all the money they gave him. And the injuries on Miami really hurt them. Tyler Hero, he tried to go, but he couldn't do much. But I get it. You want to get in there. Uh, I mean, I and Eric Spoelstra, what can I say? For the team to be in that position, now I don't know if he did much to get him in that position. I think the Celtics' bad play helped. Jimmy Butler's elevated play assisted, and Spoelstra might have just been the beneficiary of that. But to be in a one possession game with what was it, maybe 20 seconds left on the clock, uh, very good for Miami.
Yeah, I mean, you touched on something that I was going to talk about, and that was that the Miami Heat, and actually both teams, but the injuries. I think this was a series where, for me, Miami Heat showed me a lot of grit. I mean, Boston did as well. I'm not taking that away from them, but for Miami, I mean, Lowry played injured in this series, and he really gave what he had left. He really, with that 18-10 game in Game 6. But in Game 7, he still gave you everything that he possibly could. But the Heat were a team at that point. You remember that movie Terminator with
Yes.
Arnold Schwarzenegger, and I think it was the first Terminator. At the end, you know how it's the Arnold Schwarzenegger body, and then it melts down into the steel, and then you got that bluish eye light coming out the eyes, and it's just still going forward, and it just wouldn't stop till eventually, whatever happened. I forgot how it exactly ended, but I think it got blown to pieces or
it,
whatever. But what
it's
happened at the
okay.
end,
We
Zach?
got you. We
Okay,
got you. It's okay. Just
it
keep
it
going.
finally ended, and the Heat were just like that. They were hanging in there as long as they could. They were making buckets late in games. They were fighting back, scrapping, getting back into it, and they just went as far as they could, man. I mean, you talked about Hero. Come to find out, he was really injured, and so it wasn't like they were just doing load management with him and trying to save him for the future and things like that. I think he was in a position where he really was injured enough to not be effective. Lowry was injured. Um, Butler looks like he was laboring. I think he missed a game in that series, as a matter of fact. But he gave you what he had, and the same thing with Boston was Smart with that nasty looking ankle injury, and he came back from that earlier. But we're forward into Game 7 here. So Miami, it was just like they were out, like Boston outlasted Miami in this series. But of course, in order to outlast, you have to play well, and I think Boston as a team, especially with sprinkling in Al Horford and his key efforts out there, because there were times he was hitting the shots to kind of keep things going too from the outside and to keeping Miami honest. And I think that they just basically outlasted them in this series. Um, but that goes not without saying that Miami had opportunities. And so the theme of our next topic here uh, is going to be about the 3-pointers. Okay. And I'll kick this one off, Zach. Of course, we're going to get to Jimmy Butler's three, but even prior to that, I count at least 4 instances where Miami hit 4 3-pointers and none of them counted. There was a play. I saw a play, and again, I watched this game after it was already played, so I had an idea who won. So I'm watching it now, thinking about things along the way that would impact the end of the game. And so there was a couple times there where Miami, there was one play where Miami was running a play, and it was going to kick it to the corner for a three. And Marcus Smart stepped in and ended up having like a blocking call against him. And as he did that, because it was like a player run off a screen, and he stepped in the way, official blew the whistle. It was a foul. I mean, and then it was the pass over to the corner, and the Miami Heat player took three, and it was swish. There was another play where Jimmy Butler had broke loose off a turnover, and the ball was thrown down the court, and Butler had to chase it down. I don't know if you remember that, but he stepped out of bounds. But as he was stepping out of bounds, as he stepped out, he kicked it to the corner, and a Miami Heat player hit a three on that. But of course, Butler stepped out of bounds. That's another three. And then, of course, you have to play with Strus, and it was replayed. That was another 3-point opportunity as well. So there was a couple of 3-point opportunities in there where the ball actually went through the net. That it just goes back to show you in a close game that if there was a couple things here and there, Miami wins the game. So, that's how tough that series was and close it was. But let's talk about another three, Zach, and that's the three that this gentleman, Jimmy Butler, took late in the game. I know you have some things you want to say on that, and then I'll follow you.
Well, I'll just go before I go to the three. You were talking about the 3-pointers. And I'd say Miami only shot 66% from the 3-point line. So those are points that you gave away that, I mean, you lost the game by 4. So if you just hit 3 more and match, Celtics went 19 for 24, you went 16 for 24. So if you just go 19 for 24 like the Celtics, then what I'm about to talk about now, maybe that's not a decision that has to be made. But what was it? And I'm not sure the exact seconds, but I believe it was definitely less than 24 seconds left. Jimmy Butler's coming down court, and now I'm saying that maybe it wasn't less than 24, but I think it was. Butler's coming down court, and he takes a 3. I'm sorry. He's got Al Horford. It's a fast break. Al Horford is retreating, backpedaling.
Mm-hmm.
He's giving Butler. He actually gave Butler a great deal of space. Butler decides to pull up. Did he have Strus? I think he had Strus on the left wing, I believe. I think that's Strus. And I want to say he had someone. I'm sorry, he had Strus on the right wing and had someone to his left, and he decided to pull up. Now, there's going to be some, I guess, depending on how you feel about things or whatever, you're going to have the culture, i.e. the Kobe Michael Jordan culture, that if you're the top player or whatever, then the way you lose is you go out shooting all the bullets in your gun. So go 1 for 30. And that's how a lot of people want to see it. For me, I'm more about just do the right thing. Whatever the right thing is, do the right thing. I'm not going to change that up no matter what. I have been someone that hasn't fussed at LeBron when he's passed to guys that are open, because if a guy's open and he's a professional player, he should be able to hit a shot if that's what he's doing. Like you pass it to Shaq at the 3-point line, okay. Shaq doesn't need to take that shot. But, Kyle Korver's a 3-point shooter. You would think he'd be able to hit it. Jimmy Butler isn't the strongest 3-point shooter. That was a hero shot. That's a shot that you take, and if you make it, you go down, everybody's cheering your name and all this other stuff. But it's an all or nothing shot too. If he tries to go to the bucket, maybe you get fouled, maybe you get an and one. Maybe, though I don't think he would have, hopefully he would have more sense, but sometimes your instincts take over. Maybe the guy that's guarding Strus, and I think that was Smart guarding Strus. He's defensive player. Maybe his instincts take over. He comes off, you get out to Strus. Strus gets a open 3 and a better percentage shot. I don't think that was a great percentage shot by Butler. Everybody said the right thing about it. I have to believe Butler's going to have some questions itself of, hey, maybe I can, had I done this, done that, it turns out differently. But it is what it is. And I'm not happy with the shot. I would have preferred, I'm more along the lines of extend the game as long as you can. Meaning, if you're in those type of situations, foul the other team, make them go to the free throw line, shoot free throws, and play those percentages, and kind of giving those examples that maybe they'll miss, and you can come down and do whatever. But once you take the three, depending on the situation, uh, then you really have to hit it, and that's my thing with a lot of stuff. I know people. As I said, people believe in the hero method, but it's no different than being a corner. If you jump a route as a corner, especially depending on the situation, you need to get the interception, or at worst case, knock the pass down. Because if you don't, and you get beat over the top or whatever, or the receiver catches the ball, and if it's college, the band is playing the damn college song, um, that's just bad play. And people can, I guess, cheer for that type of style or whatever. I'm not going to cheer for that. I'd say if somebody's child's life depended on Butler scoring in that situation or winning the game, I don't think they would have been going for that. Or if the fate of the world depended on Jimmy Butler winning the game, that's probably not what you go say then. Like, oh God. But it is what it is. It's too late now. As I said, as a Miami fan, I would have liked to have seen him do something different. He hasn't taken too much heat for it, and I guess that's the way the society is now. If you take the shot, everybody's gonna love you. If you pass it off to someone else, even if it's a better play, then you're gonna get criticized.
Well, okay, but I'll just say this. I think more so, as opposed to that, I just think that he's not getting as much heat. Um, he does play for the Heat, so he already has enough heat on him.
Yes,
But
we
he's
got
but he's not taking as much heat because of the heroic game that he had in Game 6, and then you combine that with the heroic efforts of Game 7. Now, that doesn't mean that the play was, the right play to make. I do agree that I'm in the school of thought of you stretch the game out as long as you can, because at some point the other team might just break, and then you don't want to take yourself out of the scenario if you and then play to your strength. And for example, I know you some people, we all talked about LeBron James, but his strength is to pass the ball, so he's playing to his strength. Butler's strength is the mid-range game. His strength is, taking it to the
yes.
basket. His strength is not taking threes. Now, has he made some threes? Yes, he's made some. I mean, he's shooting like I think it's like 26% from three in the postseason. So it's not zero. So he's made some threes. But if I'm guarding Jimmy Butler, or if you're guarding Jimmy Butler, I think we both would rather him shoot a three if we had to defend him versus him doing
Absolutely.
anything else. So I think what he did in that scenario, and he only had in his mind, I can imagine him, racing down the court, and he's trying to make a quick decision, and he just said, "Hey, shoot it or don't shoot it," and he shot it. Okay, but if he played to his strength, he, as we showed on the illustration, there was a player on the wing, so that's players occupied as a threat. If he drives, you open up more opportunities, because if the defender comes off of that shooter to help pick him up because he's driving, then you can kick it.
Yep.
If he hugs, then you is one on one with Al Horford, and you should win that matchup. And then you put the pressure on the official to make the call at a 2-point game. And more than likely, if you draw contact, you're more likely going to get on the line in that scenario and tie the game. Or you beat Butler, or you beat Horford and score, or you beat Horford, get fouled and score, so you get your three that way. So there's a lot more options there if he drives, and on top of all of that, that's his strength. Pulling up shooting the three basically bails Horford out, and then it puts you in a scenario, if Boston gets the
Yep.
rebound, then you have the foul
Mm-hmm.
situation. The league
Oh,
gets
it was
long,
done.
it gets stretched out. Now you just put yourself out the game. You remember, and I wish I remember the year, but we'll put it on our social media page. It was a game where the Minnesota Vikings were at the New York Giants. Denny Green was the coach, and it was late in the game, and the announcers were talking about how they should have went for it on fourth down, but Denny Green punted the ball anyway. And I think it has something to do with mathematically. If they stop them on the 3 and out, they'll get the ball back, even though it was late in the game. But at least they'll get the ball back for one more opportunity. He played that to stretch the game out, and that's exactly what they should have did here. Is go for stretching this game out because you never know what Boston's going to do or allow you to do. I mean, Horford might think like what I'm thinking. I don't want to foul you. I don't want it to be an and one situation.
Yeah.
So if anything, I'm gonna let you lay it up, and then we get the
Yep.
ball back. You know what I'm saying? So you took all of those things, all those elements out of there. So as much as we need to praise Butler for what his efforts are, and it was valiant. Just talking about that particular opportunity, I think he should have went to the basket. So I think we're on the same page with that, Zach.
And I'll go two things about what you said. Like you talked about his strength being the mid range. He could have, while he had a Horford on skates, pulled up and took the mid range.
Yeah, exactly.
Like if he was worried, like if his concern was, hey, I try to go to the bucket, Horford's gonna block my shot and or maybe foul me. I don't know if he was worried about free throws. I like to believe if this was LeBron, everybody would say he didn't want to go to the line and shoot free throws. I don't think Butler was, but maybe. You were talking about what he might have been thinking in that moment. I would hope that professional players train for these seconds and everything. Because I will say a lot of times when you see him at the end of quarters, when it's maybe 3-4 seconds left, they seem to be able to run plays and get a shot off a lot of the time. So I would hope that Miami had prepared for this and that Butler wasn't all confused from the time. But I would say, if you're down 1 point and you took that three, I would get it because, okay, you foul, they go down, hit 2 free throws. It's still a 1 possession game. But like you're saying, when it's 2 points, that's it. Or I guess if it's 3 points, I can understand you taking it then.
Yeah.
But I guess better luck next year for my Heat if they can get back.
Hey, look, there's definitely they have zero to be ashamed about. Miami had a great season, Zach, and they were that close. I mean, they were one game, one victory away, and they were 6 points in the final score. They're 6-7 points away from being in the NBA Finals right now, and so for them to be that close, and I don't think anyone had the Miami Heat in this position at the beginning of the season.
Well,
anyway,
looking at the start of the game, for it to come down to one shot is actually where Boston should be doing some soul searching, because the fact that the Heat had a chance to win is amazing, because just the way the game played out, they didn't have much offense that game. And as I said, I know Bam had 25, but his 25 wasn't really a good 25, because I think he probably should have had 32 or 34, just based on some of the easy soft buckets that he just missed.
Yeah.
So good for Miami.
Yeah. And to wrap a pretty bow on the Miami Heat, and we'll have a couple notes here for the Heat and the Celtics for this game 7. But I think the Miami Heat moving forward, I think if they're going to keep Bam, I think they need to go ahead and find a center, someone that can really play the 5 position.
They're going to
shift Bam, and they're doing so, get you a 5 somewhere, at least a athletic shot block running 5, and move. And that way, he's definitely playing a 4/3. And I think Bam will have more advantages that way. But going real small and having him as your 5 is definitely not going to be the move, in my opinion, long term. So do that. Do that, and also no problem. But just do that, and then also look for maybe a changing of the guard, if you will, at the guard position. There's a Donovan Mitchell out there that's looking to move around somewhere. Maybe you can get creative that way. But you definitely with Kyle Lowry, I mean, he gave you all he had, but you probably need to get younger at that position. And they have some pieces. I mean, Hero is from some things I read, he wants to be more than a 6-man now. He wants to start.
Good.
So okay, let's see where you can find Hero and see maybe a Utah Miami deal or something, something along those lines.
Hey, there you go. You could be a starter somewhere else.
There you go. But you was
But
about to say something, Zach. Go ahead.
yeah, like what I've heard is Jimmy Butler and Bam are untouchable because I think I brought up trading Bam last time, but Jimmy Butler and Bam are untouchable, and supposedly, and you may like this, uh, the Heat have interest in Bradley Beal.
Oh yeah,
So,
that'd be good for them.
uh, so from a Washington standpoint, since they're kind of sort of rebuilding, maybe Washington would be interested in Hero. Package Lowry with that, you go from there. And I like what you said about Bam. Like this is it. Like I know everybody looks at Bam, and if you look at Bam, you would think that he's a very physical specimen. But I can tell you from playing football, a lot of times with guys, hey, just because they look like that, don't mean they that physical. And Bam isn't that physical. Like if you would have asked me who's more physical between Bam and Draymond Green, and Bam has a body that probably Draymond Green could only dream of. Draymond Green is way more physical than Bam at about. Like you said it correctly. Bam is not built. Wait, what are they talking about? That smoke, that smoke around the paint or whatever it is. He not built for that. And I like how you said small four. So look at that. You even downgraded him further to say being a stretch four that you're softer in the sense that you need to move down. And he's made some athletic plays, like I want to say the block from a few
Yeah,
years ago when they went to the finals against Tatum or whatever. But those are
amazing block.
athletic things that he can do. From a toughness standpoint, no, you are absolutely correct. They need to find a meat potatoes type of big guy that can if you want to go a Charles Oakley to Bam Adebayo's Patrick Ewing, though he's not close to being as good as Patrick Ewing, but older people should understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, yeah. Just kind of stack them into another position instead of
Yeah.
making them play the five.
Yep.
Man, but with Boston, they congratulations to them making it to the finals. They
Boo.
they they man, the Milwaukee Bucks. I mean, Kevin Durant, and then the Miami Heat. And by the way, the graphic was just up there, but Miami number one seed and didn't have all NBA player. I mean, that's a lot to say about teamwork and getting things done as a unit. And speaking of getting things done as a unit, Boston Celtics, um, man, they as a team, they got it done. Tatum, Smart, Jalen Brown. I mean, this trio had at least 25-5, so they were getting things done as a unit there. And man, and before we get out of here, Zach, here's a little nugget for you there, Zach, with Tatum and the Celtics there. Uh, man, remember the movie
Now
Top
you
Gun, right?
well, yes, I went and saw the new one. Now you're making me not like the Top Gun movies much after I just really thoroughly enjoyed it. Want to tell everybody go watch it because if you enjoyed the first one, you'll enjoy this. So
Yeah,
let's hope not. Let's hope that doesn't go together. But they have a great
yeah,
chance.
yeah. They have an opportunity, and we'll see how that goes. We're gonna go ahead and man, we gotta hurry because we have our special guest coming in. Um, so we'll talk about the finals real quick. Of course, we'll go into more detail as the series is going along. But it is the Celtics and the Warriors, as you can see there. Everything kicks off tonight. Game one is tonight, and I believe it's going to start around 9. So we want to be in
Yes.
position around
Right.
8:30. All
Right.
right.
And it probably with commercials and everything getting started. My guess is 9:15, 9:20 Eastern. They'll actually toss the ball up.
Yes, sir. All right, and there's your championship odds right there. Boston's a plus 30, and Golden State is
Oh,
a minus 154. Minus 154 is that. All right, so give you a quick quick review overview of this matchup, and then we'll get into our predictions, and then we'll get out of here.
well, it'll for me. It's going to be really, really easy, and I'll kind of sort of put it into uh, football terms to a degree that I think the Golden State has a offense maybe similar something to the Kansas City Chiefs when they had Tyreek Hill. So the question will be, how does the Boston defense match up to it? Are you going to be able to quote unquote blitz the offense to disrupt things, or are you going to have to kind of sit back and play it safe? So how Boston decides that they want to attack that will be interesting. And from the game within the game, Marcus Smart is the defensive player of the year, and a lot of people talk about defense wins championships. This is, I'm assuming they're going to put him on Curry, I would think, or at least play him on Curry as much as they can play Curry. This is Deion Sanders, maybe Michael Irvin, if not Deion Sanders and Jerry Rice, depending on how you want to look at that. I think the counter is unlike maybe the old days where you line the wide receiver up on one side and say Deion, hey, he knew he could go there. This will be one of those where you'd have to travel, i.e. go, because they're going to move Curry to the slot, move Curry to the other side, put Curry in motion or whatever. So you're going to have to chase him off of screens. You're going to have to get through double picks. You're going to have to worry about dribble handoffs and all this stuff. And how Curry can handle Marcus Smart, if he can really dominate that matchup, because I would say that he needs to win that matchup. How Marcus Smart can handle that matchup will dictate everything else. Because I think from there, Clay, Poole, even if you want to go Wiggins, if you're depending on those guys maybe to really carry the load, that might be what Boston wants. And that could put them in a position to win. Whereas if Curry can get close to 30 and be it, maybe his efficiency only a little bit lower, that's a win for Golden State. And of course, if Curry can be Curry and then be plus 30 or be around 30 and be highly efficient, then Boston has no chance. But those are things I'm looking at, because I expect Tatum to be his 25 kind of game self. I think Jaylen Brown really gets a coming out party for people out there. He'll be around that anywhere from say 22 to maybe 25 point a game. And just going back to Smart, outside of how Smart plays defensively, I would think that he's going to be tired on the offensive end. And if he can eliminate them wild shots that he will do, or like you said, I like what you said about Butler, that stay in your wheelhouse. Like shoot a couple threes, but don't. You've seen it. Just stay within your thing.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to seeing how they defend Curry.
Yes.
I want to see how Boston defends the motion, the pass and cut offense of the Warriors. I think Boston is equipped to do a lot of switching. So I like to see if they do a lot of switching. If they get a little physical with Curry and trying to stay in his kitchen, if you will, to make it tough. I believe Curry's shooting around 35 or something like that % against Boston. So we'll see if Boston can defensively and perimeter can contain these guys, or at least keep them, within normalcy, and not have no one really have an explosive game. If they can do that, and if they can draw fouls on the Warriors, I like to see what type of positions they want to put Curry in, and even put players like Poole, because Poole is probably an X factor for them in this series. But if he's in foul trouble, I want to see how he plays in those situations where he switched on Tatum or Brown, and they're a little bit bigger than him. So I want to see that chess match and see how that pans out, and then ultimately we'll have our winner. So we have to give our prediction. But before we give our prediction, right, we're down to about 2 or 3 minutes here. Let's first give our MVP prediction, Zach. So who do you have as the MVP of the finals?
Oh well, if it's Golden State, it's Steph Curry. It seems this is all set up unless he goes out there and just averages like 10 points and shoots 25%, he's winning it. I think the media feels bad that he has not been the finals MVP. And for Boston, I got to be honest. For Boston, it could be anybody, but I'm gonna go with Jaylen Brown. That
Okay.
He because I think he'll get less attention than Tatum.
Yeah. Oh man, this is gonna be lackluster here, but I think those are the two as well. Because I
Well,
mean,
damn.
just what it is. I mean, Curry, if the Warriors win this thing, Curry, is clearly the best player right now for that team. And if they win this, it's going to be because of him. The advantages that are set up for others because of Curry right now. Because Clay is not the Clay of old right now, especially with
No.
the injuries. And Draymond is not the Draymond of old, but Curry is still kind of still Curry. So I think he'll get it if the Warriors win. And again, if Boston wins, I think it's Tatum. I think he's going to do more of an all-around thing for their team. And the way Boston plays, not one guy really sticks out. And so tie goes to the runner for me. It'll be Tatum. So we have our two MVP candidates, and we're down to the last minute, Zach. So who wins the NBA Finals? Boston
Uh,
or Golden State?
well, Mr. 411 can answer this question at a later date, but what type of referees are you getting? And I'll just go back to my football thing of, are we being allowed to play bump and run coverage and be a little bit more physical with the wide receivers down the field or whatever? Or are we dropping flags for everything? I think that will dictate a lot. If Golden State's
Mm-hmm.
offense is allowed to be free flowing, I'll go Golden State in 6. I'd say 5, but I'm gonna show Boston some respect. Golden State in 6.
All right. I have. Oh, you said Golden State in 6, right? So yeah, I'm going with Boston in this series. I have
Okay.
Boston. I have Boston in 7. So I'll go Boston in 7. So those are our predictions, Zach. Uh, it's time for you to go to studio number 2, and
Yes, sir.
we got to get ready for our next show here, part 2. But those are our predictions. So we'll see how that go. We have it on video. We'll be able to run it back, if you will. So for Zach, I'm Mr. 411. We thank everybody for watching and listening. Hit the like, subscribe, and notification buttons. We thank you. We are the Sports Brothers, and we're out.